I'm Justin Pritchard for Motoring TV. This is the 2022 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring Plug-in Hybrid, and in this video, by the time you watch this video, I'll have driven over 6,000 cumulative kilometers of cross-province driving in two separate Lincoln Corsair variants over the past few years. The Lincoln Corsair is an approachable blend of posh and tech. It's brimming with unique touches and features that help set it apart. The highway ride is creamy, the cabin is generously trimmed and nicely built. And in all, I would tell you this is a machine with many strengths, as well as a potentially serious weakness that shoppers should be aware of. More on that later. For this latest Lincoln Corsair test drive, the Grand Touring Plug-in Hybrid, or PHEV, was the unit of choice. The plug-in hybrid is a special type of hybrid that can do wonders for your fuel bill. Most hybrids don't have a plug. The Corsair GT is one of the rarer hybrid SUVs that does. That's two energy sources used to propel this ride, a battery full of electricity and a tank full of good old-fashioned liquid dinosaur. So maybe you're relatively unfamiliar with this technology, and maybe you're wondering things like, what happens when the battery runs down? When does it charge? When do I need to plug it in? Well, the important thing to remember is that in a hybrid like this, as long as there's gas in the tank, you're good to go. There's no situation where charging is mandatory. There's no situation where you'll be driving along and suddenly need to stop what you're doing and connect to a charger. In fact, you could drive this thing for 27 weeks and never connect it to a charger if you wanted to. Under the hood is a 2.5-liter four-cylinder gasoline hybrid engine, teamed up with a pair of integrated electric motors, one at each axle, that run on electricity stored in the hybrid battery. A portion of that battery's capacity is automatically recharged as you drive around. This is the gas-electric driving typical of conventional plugless hybrids. The battery used in the plug-in hybrid model stores a lot more energy than the battery used in the standard hybrid. So much, in fact, that you've got to connect it to an external charger to charge it up fully. So when the Corsair GT's hybrid battery is full, it holds enough energy to drive about 50 kilometers without using any gas. It's like having an electric vehicle for shorter trips that seamlessly switches to gas-electric hybrid drive for longer ones. I saw up to 56 kilometers of driving per charge in some situations, and note that colder temperatures will reduce the range and slow down the charging time. So we're fully charged up here right now. We're going to do a little time lapse with this camera. That's why that's in the way. But to start this off, let me show you here. What that's showing us is 532 kilometers worth of gasoline in the gas tank and 52 kilometers worth of electricity in the battery that we now have access to. So while you never have to plug this machine in, doing so means that your shorter drives virtually stop using any gas, meaning you might just wind up filling your tank a few times a year instead of a few times a month. With nightly charging at home on my watch, I handled a week's worth of errands in my tester before the fuel pump ever turned on. When the 50 kilometers of electric range runs out, automatic gasoline backup comes online seamlessly, and gas-electric hybrid driving continues. This process is totally invisible and automatic. You'll hear a faint grumble as the gas engine spins up, and that's about it. The gas engine does turn itself on occasionally during electric driving, presumably for battery temperature control, fluid circulation purposes, and so on. It's also ready to kick in at a moment's notice at higher speeds when additional pickup is required. The nice thing about electric motors is that they gush quiet, smooth torque, and the Corsair has two of them. So when you're driving in pure EV mode, you just hear a slight electric whirring noise, and the machine is responsive and smooth. When used in conjunction with the gasoline engine, the electric motor torque can smooth out and fatten up the power curve, bumping output and throttle response with no additional noise. So the hybrid motors boost the engine like a turbo system, but with much faster response and while saving fuel as opposed to burning more of it. The electric boosted throttle response in the Corsair's Excite drive mode, the sporty one, provided a steady supply of grins. It's a quiet and smooth glide up to speed on electric-only power, supplemented by a smooth and muted growl from the four-cylinder engine when some heavy-footed driving gets it revved up. Here, there's a pleasingly potent punch of electric torque, blended smoothly with combustion power that glide the Corsair up to speed swiftly. It's a highly responsive glide from the get-go that non-electrified gas engines of this size just can't match. So a smooth and quiet engine that goes nicely with a smooth and quiet drive most of the time. On smooth roads and especially highways, you'll see some of the Corsair's best work. It's soft and comfortable over most highway and secondary roads. The ride seems smooth, dense, durable, and solid. It's not too much of one or the other, but strikes a nice balance between relaxed and responsive. The Corsair doesn't beg for fast cornering, but it's not opposed to it either. Most will find it feels very chilled out and easy to drive. But the rough and crumbling back roads surrounding Sudbury, Ontario coaxed out my tester's biggest weakness yet again on this test drive. After my initial visit to the Corsair a few years back, I noted that certain bumps and craters in a crumbling backroad setting prompted a notable hit to ride comfort, often stirring more noise and feedback from the suspension than I expect for the money. The complaint remains, and I left my decked-out $70,000 tester wishing for better isolation from the smashed-up Sudbury roads beneath. Specifically, washboard or pothole-covered roads, camp roads, or roads with failed pavement repairs make for a ride that can feel coarse and brittle, with generous audible feedback from the suspension. These are worst-case scenario settings, but other luxury crossovers and even some mainstream ones feel better suited to these specific surfaces. So while highway touring ride comfort is very satisfying, shoppers making this sort of spend have better options for ride comfort on busted-up back roads if that's a priority. And so a couple of gripes also apparent from here in the driver's seat. I can show you number one, this piano gloss surface. We're back here again. This stuff looks great, but again, to keep this clean and scratch free, you're gonna wanna have a Swiffer or something and just lightly clean this off. The other thing is the instrument cluster. You can see it's not particularly exciting to look at, and it's minimal, and I get that that's probably the way it was supposed to be designed. Maybe that's what the shopper wants. It's just not particularly exciting. It works well, the information's all there, it's easy to read, it's logical. I just wish there was a little bit more color and a little bit more flair. These are minor gripes in the big scheme of the Corsair Grand Touring's cabin, a welcoming, calming place to take in the scenery while you're surrounded by richly detailed surfaces, upscale touches everywhere you look, and generous use of metal, leather, and stitching to convey a high-end depth and character. I think my favorite thing about this interior is the neat and tidy look. Most button clutter is positioned low on the dash around a single interface. That means almost everything is in one spot, and the driver's outward sightlines are less cluttered. It also means that more of the cabin's visual scenery flaunts luxurious materials, not buttons and consoles and interfaces and screens. Further back, the low cargo load-in height is easy to appreciate, especially for family canines jumping in and out. So give this machine some attention if you like the idea of a creamy highway ride, a richly trimmed cabin full of unique details, and a fuel-sipping engine that's big on quiet power. I'm Justin Pritchard for Motoring TV. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care and drive safe.
In 1988, it was only found on TV, not anymore. We have a robust website with the best auto journalists in the country. Our Facebook, where the only topic of conversation is cars, and where it's easy to win cool swag. YouTube, which boasts 30 years of archives at your fingertips, including complete episodes. Cool shirts, right? For the first time ever, we're selling them. Google Motoring TV Shop to get yours today.